Ladies and gentlemen, we are live on virtual launch day. I am your host, Tramell Jeffers. Now, most of you know me as the host on Second Thought, but today I'm going to be the host for this virtual launch day, and we're going to get to know more about the Polaris Network. And here I have the staff members here at the Polaris Network. I'm going to go ahead and introduce them, and we're going to start with our executive producer, Bree. We also have Ryan, who is an executive producer. We have Camry. She's a producer here at the Polaris Network. We have the production manager, Karina, and we have Nate, who is the head production of the Polaris Network. So this is your staff. This is the lovely crew who make everything happen here at the Polaris Network. So let's dive right into this interview. And we're going to start with the very first question. And what led you all to the Polaris Network? Specifically, what was your calling to get here at the Polaris Network?
Well, I guess I'll take this one. We actually all kind of linked up, as the kids would say. we all got together because of a podcast that we do, Taco Tuesday podcast. And so we were all producing the show for about a year. And we did take it over to another distributor for our video, as our host Jerome likes to say, vodcast. It's just that's like short for like a VOD, like video cast, and then VOD like VOD, video on demand. And so we were at another distributor, and towards the tail end of our time there, we sat down and realized that there was a lot more that we could be doing to grow not only our podcast but our other collection of shows that we had accumulated at that time, whether it was the pop-up shop, our interview series, whether it was Kodak, and it was so many more ideas that we wanted to branch out. And when we sat down at the drawing board, we realized that we had something special. And it wasn't that we had any idea that was amazing or we had any particular production or resource. It was that we had each other. You know, we had the desire, the burning desire, the passion to really branch out and expand into something that was what I guess you could say is audience focused. And so we wanted to kind of create something. And then we looked at the lay of the land to see like, what could we harvest this into, you know? And when we looked out, we seen first thing, Joe Budden, the Joe Budden Network, you know, Joe Budden podcast expanding into the Joe Budden Network. We saw Charlemagne the God of the Breakfast Club expanding into the Black Effect podcast network, and so many countless others. And so a big part of what we wanted to do was kind of like coalesce that into something. But obviously, from our experience with our distributor, we knew that like how to focus and attack it from a different angle as a production going into it versus a distributor, a true distributor. So we like to think of ourselves as not necessarily a true distributor or a true distribution platform, but more of like a family. You know, it's a family feel, it's familial. And we're very audience focused, and that's what we wanted to do. Obviously, with the others I mentioned, they're celebrities, they're celebrity focused, they have great talent, great people, you know, well known, popular. We wanted to bring it back to the person who we are, the fans who are watching them and us, you know. And so we wanted to kind of bring that back, so to speak. Polaris Network, where authenticity matters.
In the words of Family Feud. Good answer. Good answer.
Right. Okay, so what exactly is the Polaris Network, and what are the goals, and what is the mission here?
Our mission here at the Polaris Network is to illuminate the multifarious nature of the Black community, to get more stories out there that nobody has heard.
Well, some of our goals here are to produce stories that will spark global change for Black people. Some more of our goals include informing and inspiring our audience towards enlightenment. Another goal of ours is to create stories that will have a lasting impact on communities, both locally and globally, as I mentioned before.
So the the Polaris Network is a online media network that um, that offers a wide variety of culturally relevant content for a cross-cultural audience.
So what kind of content do you all plan on creating?
So a big part of the content that we want to create is we want to, obviously we're starting off with scripted, unscripted rather. And so a big part of that unscripted content is, like I said, getting back to the audience. We want to be as accessible as we are authentic, and we want authentic content. We want you guys to all know that you can connect with the person and the people and the crew that you see before you can get into the scripted stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, we're gonna get into it. Don't worry. We're gonna get into the scripted stuff. Hold your horses. But our plan is to let you see us first in our truth, in our authenticity, and then we get into that. So it's kind of like, for instance, we have a show, No Church in a While. It is a docu-series. Go check it out, June 9th or June 16th. And a big part of that show is that we obviously want to turn that into a scripted show. That show is about racial oppression and just like the systemic oppression that exists within this country. It's actually a really great show. Great cast, too, great. And these shameless plugs. And so the biggest thing with that show is that we have a plan outlined for when we want to, turn it into a scripted show. But if you just seen the scripted show, as we see a lot of times, when we see on the traditional television media networks that we see, you wouldn't necessarily understand the full reality or the ideas that led the creators, the crew, like everyone to that one place. You would just kind of see the place and the idea of the writer and the direction of the director and showrunner and so on and so forth. So we kind of wanted to give you that full scale because we really believe in what we do. And I'm not saying no one else does. I'm just saying that we make it a priority to let you know that we do.
What is it that you all would like to accomplish in the next year? So June 2022, what is it that you all want to accomplish by that time?
Yeah. So we have 6 shows, but as a company, we really do prioritize growth, and we want to make sure like we reach as many people as we can because we're so value centered here, and we do believe that our message for the world is to show people like Black people in a more humane way or a humanly way, so you can connect with us because like the history of the media, which we're going to get into in No Church in the Wild in a few weeks, so you guys can have like a general idea of how much we want to, where we're going as a company. But for show wise, we prioritize every show we have here. So like Taco Tuesday, we hope to get a sponsorship. We're looking at all y'all, anyone interested in sponsoring Taco Tuesday, and just growing our audience and inviting more audience members who enjoy the show on the show, because we do want to create that authentic connection and feel like you guys are like family and friends to us, because that's what we're doing with the content we create. So with the pop-up shop, we want to reach out to more Black businesses and get more Black businesses interested in the show so we can have that partnership and help you grow. Cul-de-sac, get more audience members there. No Church in the Wild, we hope to submit to so many film festivals, and our one that we're eyeing is the Emmys, but everything else. And the Garage Pod, how could I forget? That one, I'm actually really excited for the Garage Pod just because it has that live feel, which we've been so disconnected from while being in quarantine. So the Garage Pod, we're definitely gonna bring as much as of a live experience to you, whoever's watching the screen. So yeah, those are some of our biggest goals here, production wise and company wise, that I'm excited for.
Awesome. Great answers from everybody. And before we go, I want to say thank you to all of you for taking your time out of your day and taking time out to answer these questions. I'm excited to be a part of this. I'm excited to see the Polaris Network grow. I just can't wait to see what this is going to turn out to be
We're
a year
excited
from
to have
now.
you too, Tramell.
Thank you. Thank you.
And check out that On Second Thought every Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
go
like
ahead and check out On Second Thought as well, everybody that's watching.
1 p.m. Eastern.
Yes, sir. 1 p.m. Eastern.
All right. Go ahead, put the camera back on my face. Go ahead. You already know. So, what we gonna do right now is, we couldn't have a virtual launch day event without dropping a gem for y'all, dropping something, because obviously, y'all seen the super trailer already. And if you haven't, go check it out. The next video, go ahead and put that right there. I don't know why I keep doing that to the editors, but go ahead. You know what I mean? We have it is the anniversary of Blackout Tuesday, and so we wanted to provide you with a special look at our systemic oppression docuseries, No Church in the Wild. It is an exclusive first look at the series. Go ahead and check it out. It will be premiering the week of Juneteenth. So go ahead and check that out. Go ahead, let us know what you think of it live in the comment section right now. Please and thank you. Like and subscribe. We'll be back with more. Check it out.
Police violence in America is a complex issue with a deep and troubling past. A young black male today is 21 times more likely to be killed by police than a young white male. And because of a legal doctrine called qualified immunity, in 99% of police killings, the officer is never charged with a crime. To understand this problem better, we need to take a closer look at how we got here. First, we all need to understand that historically speaking, the black community has never really had a reason to trust in the police. Let's visit colonial America in the early 1700s. As the number of enslaved people grew in the South, many slave owners realized that they were vastly outnumbered. Fearing a revolt, they needed a way to prevent an overthrow or mass escapes. This fear led to the creation of slave patrols. Slave patrols were essentially unofficial groups of armed white men tasked with policing enslaved people and preventing them from rebelling or escaping. These slave patrols had the power to beat and whip people who were non-compliant with zero accountability or oversight. As the use of slavery spread over the next 100 years, so did the use of slave patrols.
If we look back to when police were first formed, they were really formed as slave catchers. And they just transformed after slavery to become what we have now as the quote unquote police system.
That dynamic of, white person, most of the time male, pursuing a black person with the intent of capturing or killing that person has always existed. And so it kind of evolved from slave patrol into policing. And the level of brutality that you see is in alignment with the level of brutality that you saw when Black folks in America were enslaved.
Even if you look at a slave catcher's badge, it looks exactly like a badge of the LA sheriff. The canine, right? The canine unit today, back in the 1800s, they used canines, German shepherds, other dogs to catch Black people.
Now we arrive at the Civil War. The Confederacy loses and slavery is no longer legal. With slave patrols officially dismantled, former militias and organizations like the KKK stepped in to fill the void. After all, someone needed to police the large number of Black people who were previously enslaved. As states adopted segregation and Jim Crow laws, these old slave patrol structures morphed into official police organizations now in charge of policing the Black community. Over the following century, we see many examples of police either participating in violence towards Black Americans or turning a blind eye to it.
Coming out of slavery and Jim Crow, you had, Black people getting put into the convict leasing system, things of that nature. And then, you hear early blues songs like, I think it's Georgia Stockyard Blues from like 1927, where, the singer is complaining about, police brutality and how, she was locked up and convicted for doing nothing wrong except for existing and being poor and being Black. And so, it's been 100 years later and we're still complaining about the same things.
From the end of the Civil War until about 1950, there were over 4,000 public lynchings of Black Americans in almost every state in the country, and police departments would often ignore these public executions. In 1921, there was the Black Wall Street Massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where an angry mob killed as many as 300 Black business owners and burned down entire blocks of Black-owned businesses. In the 1940s and 50s, there was a Black neighborhood in Birmingham, Alabama that was bombed so frequently by white supremacists that people nicknamed it Dynamite Hill. Events like these and many others helped to promote the idea in the Black community that the police did not exist to protect them. When we fast forward through the civil rights movement of the 1960s, the war on crime that racially targeted minorities through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and the current militarization of police departments that seem to have zero accountability or oversight, Black communities still see no reason to trust in these police structures.
I think not much has changed there, and I've seen how police brutality has rocked communities. I mean, I remember in the 80s with the war on drugs, you've seen, them coming through with military equipment and battering rams and knocking down people's doors.
African Americans know pain and trauma all too well, from the evils of the Middle Passage to the tortures of slavery. Police brutality is our most recent torment.
Racism is very real.
Dr. Kendall Jasper, a licensed psychologist with ARJ in Charlotte, says racism and even the perception of it could have long-lasting traumatic effects.
It can create a downward spiral in the way that we think. More often than not, you find yourself angry and anxious, and it can invoke some flashbacks.
Dr. Jasper adds, not all people have the mental and intellectual capacity to channel their energy in a proper way. Some talk their problems out, while others act out in anger.
It's complex. It's just not as simple as someone being a thug. And we need to equally be talking about what created the issue as we are talking about the effects.
It has historically just instilled this level of fear in the Black community to where, as Black people, we can't separate policing in this country from institutionalized racism.